What's up, gang? Welcome back to Psych 1. In this second installment of a study of, we're going to take a look at duality. In this video, we're going to jump into how duality can shape our overall experience with the world. First of all, what is duality? Well, according to dictionary.com, it's an instance of opposition or contrast between two concepts or two aspects of something. In a way, it's a dichotomy between two polar opposite elements. Light versus dark, good versus evil, beauty versus ugliness. In this study, I'm going to go over how it's absolutely essential for the two sides to coexist at the same time. Otherwise, our language and sociology will be completely flawed. For example, you can't say that this shade is darker if a lighter shade does not exist. So I want to begin with a story. When I was little, my parents brought me to this really fancy looking restaurant. I'm talking about fine wooden furniture, intricate chandeliers, clean silverware, aesthetic food, and of course, exorbitant fees. Everything about the environment was really fancy, as if we just had witnessed a brand new definition of the term fancy itself. However, when the waiter gave us the bill for the food, they placed the bill on a rough, flat piece of rock. You would expect that with all the restaurant's fanciness, the waiter would have given us the bill in a leather booklet or something. But no, the rock seemed like it could have been just found anywhere in the parking lot outside. However, because everything else was the polar opposite of how ugly the rock looked, the rock did not look out of place. This is how duality can have a great influence on our experience in the world. For example, let's look at the game The Last of Us. You see all these dark and detailed imagery in the intro, which sets a very serious mood for the game. Then, when the title of the game actually hits in, it's just in blocked letters. No transition, no nothing. You would think that the developers would throw in some fancy font or transition to show off their work. However, it's exactly this lack of effort that makes all the professional cinematography stand out. Duality of color is another important factor in works of arts and fashion. You often see thick white borders around an object of interest in YouTube thumbnails. This is because the color white serves as a direct contrast to every other color. As a result, it really makes the color pop amongst all other darker shades in the background. I want to talk about beauty and ugliness in particular. I actually find this topic of duality very interesting. I want to ask you, the viewer, do you think you're good looking? Most people would say no, because humans naturally possess traits of self-pity. And that's okay. However, it's exactly this sense of self-pity that becomes significant whenever we strive to enhance our appearances. For example, many clothing brands today often showcase their apparels on a good-looking model, so that you, the consumer, would have the assumption that the same clothing will look good on you as well. However, this is when they fail in the sense of marketing. If people innately believe that they are not good-looking, then it doesn't matter if they buy good-looking clothes, since it doesn't exactly improve their overall outlook on themselves. However, this is when some select brands use duality to their advantage in marketing. Take a look at the clothing brand Uniqlo. I can guarantee you, if you walk into a Uniqlo store and take a look at the models that showcase their clothing, you can see that most of the models aren't exactly the best looking, compared to many models from other brands. However, the marketing team over at Uniqlo knows the exact sense of balance of beauty that makes Uniqlo's marketing click. The models are just ordinary people, much like yourself. If the clothing can look good on these ordinary people, then it must also look good on you. This is where psychology shines in marketing. And someone please give props to the marketing team over at Uniqlo for an ingenious marketing design. And for the record, I think that you, the viewer, is very good looking. So, as you can see, that is the beauty of duality. You may not have noticed these details before, but now you can see how direct contrasts between two separate principles can have great effects on the human experience. The human psyche is like an iceberg. According to early psychologist Sigmund Freud, you'll see me mention this guy a lot in the future. Anyways, Freud proposed that the idea of an unconscious mind is apparent to the conscious one. In other words, the conscious mind is part of the iceberg where you can see, while the unconscious lies below the water. What's the difference between the two? While you are cognitively aware of your conscious behavior, you cannot dictate the behavior of your unconscious mind. For example, it's naturally unconscious that you need to eat in order to stay alive. You don't need to think about that. However, deciding where to eat would be conscious thinking, because you're actively thinking between multiple coherent choices. There are also three components that make up the unconscious and unconscious mind: the id, the ego, and the superego. The id is completely submerged with your unconscious mind, because it is responsible for your animalistic instinct of being human, such as the desire for food, comfort, and sex. Your ego is the reality check. It aims to accomplish goals of your id with realistic methods that follow laws and morality. The ego is mostly present in your conscious mind. Your superego aims for perfection. With a combination between the conscious and unconscious mind, the superego punishes you with guilt whenever you have done something unreasonable. Alright, let's put this into example. You walk into your college dorm. Your roommate has an extremely appealing chocolate bar sitting on the counter. You really want that chocolate bar. First, your id kicks into action. Your desire to eat wants you to just take the chocolate and eat it, because it satisfies your hunger. However, your superego tells you to stop, because just taking the chocolate bar without permission would be stealing. If you steal, you will feel guilt, which is caused by the superego. Your ego finally joins in. You want the chocolate, but you're also aware that you need to do it in a reasonable way in order to prevent guilt. So, your response might be to call your roommate and ask if you can have it. As you can see, it's exactly this balance of our minds that really dictate our actions in everyday life. You'll see many examples of this in cartoons, when characters are faced with a dilemma like this one in Tom and Jerry. Duality in psychology is the coexistence of good and evil. You cannot function the way you are today if you don't possess these traits. Alright gang, it's time for a quiz. Let's see how well you've caught on with this study. I've only got 2 questions for you today. This is the first time I'm doing this, so I'll go easy on you. Feel free to pause the video if you need more time. Question 1. Which of the following is an example of duality? The correct answer is 4. Selflessness is the polar opposite of cowardice. Good. Question 2. You have recently failed an exam because you didn't study. Which part of your mind is responsible for feeling shame and regret? The superego is responsible for the feeling of guilt after you do something unreasonable as punishment. Good job, gang. Well, that wraps up this study of duality. If you have any further questions or interesting stories you'd like to share regarding this topic, that's what the comment section is for. This has been Psych 1 with the study of duality. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you tomorrow.